Terry's muted.
He's not talking.
Oh. You want to wait till we have a quorum? Oh, there's Zach.
We do. I was waiting for the live stream to start. So the live stream is
Oh.
up and running. Welcome, everyone. This is the 5th meeting of the Government Transition Advisory Committee's Budget Work Group. Today is Thursday, May 23rd, and we will be here for just an hour from 1 to 2 o'clock. My name is Julia Meyer. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Engagement and Community Participation Manager for the transition. Your chair, Terry, will facilitate today's meeting. Next slide, please. I'm just going to take a moment to go over some meeting logistics. This meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. A copy of the meeting recording will be posted on the transition website under past meetings and events. For today's meeting, we have closed captioning available. To access closed captioning, you can click on the CC button on the bottom of your screen. For committee members, please take this moment to change your chat settings to everyone so that folks in attendance can view the chat. And please remember that the chat is part of the public meeting record. For any community members listening in, we have a Zoom Q&A feature available. You can put questions or comments directly in there. We don't always live answer questions, but we do read them and they also become part of the public meeting record. At today's meeting, we are not taking verbal public comment, but folks can submit public comment at any time by calling 311, by emailing us at transition@portlandoregon.gov, or also going to the transition webpage and filling out the online public comment form. If folks want to give verbal public comment to the full Government Transition Advisory Committee, you can sign up to do so at our next committee meeting, which is on June 11th. With that, we'll go to the next slide and I'll turn it over to Terry to introduce today's agenda. Thank you.
Okay, there it is. There's today's agenda. We'll do some quick business. June, we'll present the summer engagement plan and our role in it. Then we'll talk about the recommendations and the GTAC committee feedback, next steps, and then we'll adjourn. Next slide, I guess. So, excused absences, none. Gave us notification. Meeting summary, any comments, suggestions, changes to the meeting summary?
I move approval.
Yeah, Fred moves approval.
Zach, this is Zach, I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That one carries. I'm going to skip the working agreements. If you need to refer to them, you know where to find them, I'm sure. And then review the timeline. So let's skip ahead to the timeline. Agreements for you. Next slide. Okay, so here's where we are, and this is relevant to what June's going to be talking about in detail. But we are at the point where we're getting ready to disseminate our draft recommendations to the public. And so we need to take the GTAC's advice and fix them up, get them ready to go. And they'll go out in June. From most of the summer, we'll be taking input on the recommendations. We will meet again in late July and late August. Julie, I think these are the joint meetings with District and Operations Committee, so there'll be combined meetings for everybody's combined benefit. And then the target date there is in September. We will present the recommendations for their final consideration and vote, and then put those out as formal GTAC recommendations. So that's our timeline, and that's where we are. So next slide. the summer engagement plan. So I'll turn this over to June, who will run us through this.
Thanks, Carrie. So June Reyes, she, her pronouns. I am the transition engagement coordinator. So I'm gonna just talk over pretty quickly about what our summer engagement plan is so that we're all on the same page, and we'll have plenty of time for questions. I'll try to go over this in about 5 minutes. So first, just wanted to thank you all for your feedback on the plan, and not only on the plan, but, you know, just as we've gone along and we've had discussions and folks have thrown out different, you know, recommendations for how we can improve our process. We've also just tried to incorporate those reflections as well. So I wanted to start with some of the strategies that outline our approach to engagement because they are really informed by our conversations. So first is we want to lean more on partnering with other organizations. So in this case, we'll be partnering with Civic Life and the Office of Equity and Human Rights to host listening sessions. Specifically for the Office of Equity and Human Rights, we'll be partnering with the Disability Division to be able to have a more robust conversation around accessibility with Portlanders with disabilities. And then we're also prioritizing having policy discussions with organizations that are often left out of City Hall decision making, and folks that were, you know, underrepresented in our March engagement. And so instead of, you know, trying to, we'll always invite folks to come to our sessions, but we also then want to go to other folks and see what they think about these recommendations that you all have, since they're very tangible to talk through. And then I think on the communications front, there's a lot going on in the summer. So what we're trying to do is have a unified web presence for all of our engagement opportunities. And it also will be, you know, an opportunity to really do some cross promotion throughout the summer. So something that you might see on social media is what we have here called the Summer of Civic Engagement Checklist. So not only promoting some of the surveys that will be out by the, you know, about recruitment for the city administrator and GTAC's recommendations on engagement in the future form of government. But also, you know, we want folks to participate in a mock election, and just know that there are a suite of things that kind of represent what summer engagement is about. And as we get ready to go into our new form of government, there's a lot of things that take place. And so one of the other things about this is that if someone's giving input in, you know, in one of the events that we have, there's an opportunity that it might impact another space. So we're trying to also keep the flow of information and together and organized so that we can really take advantage of really hearing people and impacting it and the different things we have to offer. And lastly, I think one of the things we had all reflected on and felt was that we didn't have as many people coming to our March engagement sessions. And so really trying to make the effort to make the content more accessible and using real life examples to make this more relatable to folks. And so I think I've mentioned this already, but I just wanted to highlight the 5 main things that are happening and folks could provide input onto in the summer. So the first, again, are GTAC's recommendations, including improving engagement in the budget process. Then there's going to be this work around recruiting non-elected city leaders. We have our city administrator and our equity officer and engagement officer that we're going to be needing some community input on. Third, there's just going to be a bunch of voter education activities happening. Fourth, there's going to be a council rules and procedures document that's going to come out in late September till October. Those are actually going to really build off of the GTAC recommendations as a starting place. And then, you know, there'll be a full month of public comment on those. And then the last, we're going to continue to do code changes to update the code so that it's, you know, it's reflective of the charter changes. I will say that because they're not so substantive, the area where folks can give input would be city council public testimony versus a different venue. And so this I will admit is a little bit challenging to read, but the point is to just understand that we have those 5 different topics of work and they kind of happen at separate times. And we intentionally try to space these out a little bit more to be able to kind of coordinate our efforts a little bit more. So In the early summer, we're going to be focusing on really getting public input on GTAC recommendations, the city administrator recruitment, and then we'll be doing voter education. Towards the later half, September, October, we're going to focus on voter education again. We'll continue to focus on voter education, but then the council rules and procedures and code updates. And lastly, I think based on some feedback of there's still a lot going on. We're also going to try to put a calendar of events on the website. So you could just download that and be able to see it and track it. If you're an organization and want to know what's going on, you can refer to that. And then these are my last two slides. So this one, these are just projections of what we think is going to be happening during the summer and sort of our targets. So like I mentioned, we're going to have two online surveys out. And we're hoping for about 300 in total for those. For community listening sessions and events, we have about 8 planned. So 3 of them are going to be voter town halls, with the other 5 going to be community listening sessions on GTAC recommendations. One of them is planned to be in person. The one I will send those dates later, August 1st, and the other 2 are meant to be virtual. And so the next piece is participants at listening sessions. So based on, the amount of folks that came to our listening sessions, which was about, 100, like we expect 150 to come, we pushed that a little bit to 175. And then policy discussion. So again, these are with community organizations representing communities underrepresented in our March engagement. And so in the groups that we had outlined in our transition engagement plan, there are about 8 groups. So immigrant and refugee, youth, Peace of 82nd, the Native American community, Black and African American community, Asian, Latinx, and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders. And then the last one is 2 employee town halls we'll have related to topics that we had talked about in the last slide. And then I just want to end with grounding us in what that looks like for you all, and noting that I'm also here to support your outreach. So I wanted to call out that again, right? This work doesn't happen without you all participating in it and us working together. So your involvement is going to really vary based on the work groups you're in and the subcommittees you're in. So, for example, if you're in the districts and council operations subcommittee and budget work groups, so that's you all. You're going to have 2 combined meetings of the subcommittee and work group throughout the summer. And you're going to have 3 community listening sessions that we're hoping you'll play active roles in. And so then if you're part of the voter education subcommittee, then you can add on to that. You also will be going to monthly voter education subcommittee meetings, the community listening session, and voter education specific presentations are taking throughout the community. And optional for you to participate in is a June onboarding meeting, a city administrator community listening session, and if you decide to do additional community education presentations. And at the bottom is just a reminder that we've all committed to doing 2 community education presentations a quarter. So that would be just 2 throughout the entire summer. And then as these opportunities come up, being able to share them through your networks is also really important to, be able to get more Portlanders input on the work that we're all doing together. So I'll stop there and I can move the slides, based on your questions.
Great. Thanks, June. Any comments, Fred?
Thanks, Terry. Well, that's very aspirational, June. I appreciate all the work you've gone into it, and hopefully that we get the turnouts we want and the publicity, because I guess the earlier ones were, maybe short notice and not enough of the community heard about them to respond. The dates, I heard August 1st for one event, September 11th for a GTAC meeting, and I think I had September 3rd down for the next GTAC meeting. So as soon as we can get dates nailed down, the better for all of us, I think, to be able to calendar and to be able to participate, especially with the tabling opportunities.
Okay, thanks, Fred. Yes, I think being able to put out a GTAC specific schedule with all these dates. We'll be sending that out soon. But I agree with you. We need to calendar those as soon as possible because summer was like yesterday. Terry.
Yeah, I think this is great. I was just going to point out that one of my main gripes is with listening sessions that no one goes to actually do any listening. And since we're putting these things out, it's really our job to go listen and hear what people have to say. So I'm hoping folks can at least do that part pretty seriously. I'm going to try and do as many of these things as possible. I've got nothing else to do. But I appreciate the organization that's going into this, and it's going to keep us all pretty busy this summer. Zach.
Yeah, I guess to your point, Terry, I'm wondering if there's going to be any kind of packet of information or something along those lines for people who sign up for listening sessions, so that it's not, you know, a general request to react to something that we present to. You know, it would be nice to be able to, you know, there's some acknowledgement that people might be coming in unprepared, but if we can get, you know, if there's like if it's clear that there's information that they can digest ahead of time, it just gives it an opportunity for richer feedback. I don't think that's a really huge undertaking. It's probably just like linking our reports and our recommendations and maybe the surveys along with it too. So, but I had a separate question though on the calendar piece. You know, I have not been maybe the best as I should have on tracking the code changes. So is the code changes that we're getting, what was that, June or July? Is that going to be like a whole package of all of the different chapters that are being updated at once, or has it been happening in the background and I've just been kind of unaware? Because I know that there was like back in December or November that was kind of like there was a plan to roll them out sequentially across the year.
Julia, do you want to take this one?
I mean, so yes, in general, the code changes are sequential. It's a lot of work for the city attorney's office and other staff. Most codes at the city need to be updated to align with charter reform, though the charter is obviously always the governing document. For example, a series of Code 3 changes were at council yesterday and passed to second reading. So those presumably will be voted on next week. I believe this summer, I want to say is titles 5 and 7. Business and finance. I could look it up in a minute. The fall will be, are there additional ones in the fall as well? Again, I think the ones in the summer, to June's point, we don't anticipate significant community engagement beyond us helping to amplify the fact that these code changes will go before city council and directing people to the opportunities to give public comment at city council. They are primarily technical changes to align with voter-approved charter reform.
Yeah, I think I listened to yesterday's council session on speed replay this morning. It sounded like they're just going to be trickling out all summer and into the fall as they are needed. The ones that were before the council yesterday were necessary for some of the budget stuff that goes into effect July 1st. So they wanted to roll those out earlier. But to the extent that we can get a really good schedule, it would be great, but I'm not sure that one exists. So anyway, that's all I know about that. Anything else on this? Hearing none. Thanks, June. Again, we can get a more comprehensive schedule for all of our calendars. That would be great. And look forward to seeing everybody on the trail this summer. Okay, so let's go to the next thing here, the feedback. So next slide, I guess. So here's the feedback on our recommendations that we heard from the full GTAC meeting. And again, the general feedback, people thought our work was great. We need to identify buy-in for the recommendations, who we need to get buy-in from for the recommendations, and how we're going to engage them. So that's something that we should talk about a little bit. I think we have a pretty good idea. Invite the city budget office to a work group meeting this summer. So we're going to try and do that. Identify opportunities for implementation, ask former GTAC member to review recommendations. Talking about Bill Farver, who had some great recommendations he wrote up some years ago. Great resource for us as we refine our work. The general revisions that we have made in the document are highlight some of the research findings in cities with good practices. We added a bunch of footnotes to refer people to, yeah, we did research this, check these cities out, and made it a little bit more specific. We did run some homework, some good examples that we added who is responsible for drafting the budget, basically using words out of the charter amendments, and then the specific recommendations and specific edits. So those are all embedded in the document. You all could or should have seen. Any other reflections, comments, discussion on some of this stuff? Red.
Yeah, since we're going to refine these after our community listening sessions and after reviewing with the budget office and the like, I think that if we need to frame these recommendations, this document in that light, that it is a draft that we were hoping to get input from the people who do the budget process now, and the people who would like to be more involved, say members of the public, in the budgeting process, or council candidates, whoever comes to these darn things and does their homework for Zach's suggestion of getting information ahead of time. So I think if there's some way to, when we distribute it out, to at least preface it with that kind of context.
That's a good point. Zach.
I mean, this is only my own self-reflection, but I still don't love where we've landed with how to manage the community budget advisory committees. And I think with respect to engagement, my efforts in getting in front of civic life, I think it's one of many, right? And so I'm thinking about our engagement and how we're having these listening sessions. Maybe we can be proactive in the groups that we have requested for survey involvement, that we can encourage them to attend these listening sessions as well. Now that they, I don't know, I'm just there's there was a lot of ambiguity, I think, still about the org chart and budgeting up until like what, 2 weeks ago. And so now that that's kind of more or less hammered out, I think that would be helpful. Julia, you're probably responding to me with something that we already have this in place.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I would like to go talk with some of these folks directly over the summer too. I mean, if these aren't the policy discussions that June had laid out, but I think there are some with the Budget Advisory Commission committees that exist, and like PUB, I think would be really important to hear from and talk to. So I'll if you're interested, Zach, maybe we can do some outreach specifically to some specific groups and have some specific conversations live and in person or something. So that's good. Other things, any other comments? One thing, I mean, Julie and I talked about this when we were doing our edits, that the document that we're putting out is what it is at this point. It is got our recommendations and some backup material. The next document, though, is one that we want to have some weight for among decision makers, this council and the future council. So the audience has changed a little bit for the next document. I think that might require some weight and some additional drafting and that sort of thing. So I guess also over the summer we should think about doing that or preparing to do that. It's state, if anybody wants to participate in that, I think that's kind of our next big project. Fred.
Yes, thanks, Terry. Yeah, to that point, I'm thinking of like the executive assistants to the existing counselors, council members they've been involved in the budget process, certainly in the deliberations to date, and through adoption, as much as their bosses are, and that some one-on-ones with them are making sure that they see this and participate in some listening sessions with us. Would be good. And I'm sorry I have to leave. Health insists. So I know we're in good hands. Thank you all, and thank you, Jose and Monty, for helping us too. You both have so many other things you're doing that I understand why you're not voting on this, but that's great. And Julia reminds me that we don't have to vote on anything today. So God bless you all, and wish me well-being. Take care.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. Good luck and hang in there. And
Thanks.
we'll see you next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Other items on this report, feedback, edits. Hearing none, we might be wrapping up soon and early. So let's go to the next slide. So these are the upcoming meetings that are scheduled. Voter and candidate education, May 28th. The districts and council operations onboarding meeting on the 29th. Full GTAC back together in June 11th. And then another onboarding meeting being scheduled. And then our work group will be scheduled in the out months with the districts and council operations meetings jointly. that along with all the upcoming engagement activities, there's a lot that's going to be in our calendars. Any comment on that? Next slide then, I guess. Yeah, so that's it. Stay in touch, and we will try and roll all this stuff out to the public here soon. Thanks, everybody, and I guess we're adjourned.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
Thanks, June.
Thank
Julia.
you.